Hello friends, this is Cara-Renee with B.Reborn Art and Healing, coming to you with a craft with me. On my trip to the lake, I had just previously watched a series of videos by Sheila Gingerich, and she's in some of the groups on Facebook that I am a part of, and I was just so inspired by her creativity and the way that she created these tiny journals. So I'm not creating a tiny journal, but I'm using the processes and things that she did in her videos. I probably will do one of the little mini journals at a later date. I apologize if I'm a little bit scratchy and sniffly. I have COVID, so I am feeling much better, but I have no fever anymore, but I still can't do anything without breaking out in a sweat. So obviously my body is not happy yet. But I thought I would go ahead and give it a try. I will probably do a voiceover for the majority of this, but I did want to do a quick introduction. So let me talk about the supplies that we'll be using first. So I've got my glues. I've got my Fabri-Tac and my art glitter glue. I've got my Liquitex matte medium, fluid matte medium. For some of the bits that we're going to do, I've got some gold flakes. I've got a gold flake brush. I bought this because I was like, I've never done this before, so I'm just going to get the brush. I've got a stamp block. I've got some stamps, some scraps of paper. I actually took this to the lake and I was able to prep all these cards. Let me show you the cards. Again, I'm pulling from the ones that I made that I was going to actually do a journal with, but I just don't have it in me to do it, and I didn't have it in me to create new mixed media index cards for this project. So what I did, similar to, well, exactly the same as Sheila, is I got gesso and I got various shades of pink, and I created these mixed media index cards. So they are really quite beautiful, varying shades of pink. And because I'm working in the Beloved Beauty Journal, I thought these would be perfect for creating some, what we're going to create is some side tuck journal cards. So that's kind of the plan here. So these are some of the cards. So I created them up at the lake. I took all this stuff with me, and that was the only thing that I got done. The weather there was extreme, like really extreme. Like we had windstorms, we had snow 2 of the days. It was just insane. And then on the last night there, I got sick and came home and was just flattened, and then I tested positive. So the rest is history. In over 2 years, though, working among children and having pretty much everyone around me get COVID, I had never gotten it. So I guess I should be thankful, but it's a tough one. So forgive my sniffling, but I am going to go ahead and do a voiceover for the majority of this. So anyway, scraps, I've got book pages, some tissue paper, and some other things. I've got some stamps. We're going to do some embossing and such. So that's what we have on the docket, so to speak, today. So I'm going to go ahead and just go to the voiceover and let you guys watch what we're creating. Here's just a quick review of the elements that I picked out to create these journal cards. Again, they're going to be a side tuck journal card. And there will be 3 of them. So I picked a vintage lady image, as well as some other bits that were going to go on the top of all of the embellishing that we're going to be doing on this base. That is some embossed white paper that I did. And again, I did get this off of Sheila Gingerich. Her YouTube videos, I will be sure to link her in the video description and over on my blog, so you can check her out. So again, I did pre-paint the index cards and decided to go ahead and use them instead of trying to repaint today in my current state. So this felt a lot easier. These are 4x6 index cards, so I do want to cut them down to 4 by 5.5. I do like a tall pocket, so these will be a regular pocket as well as a side tuck, as I mentioned. I apologize if I'm all repetitive. My brain is very foggy. And if you notice that I go a little bit off camera from time to time, I just hope that you'll forgive me for that. Just really trying to not only be creative, but get something on the channel, because I really don't, I haven't been creating. So anyway, here we go. Those are the white index cards you see there are what we're going to be using to back the journal cards to make the side tuck. So we're going to start by applying various elements. So in this bag I have, well, not only in the bag, but on my desk I have bits of music page, old book pages, some napkin that I stripped down to the 1 ply, and that white embossed paper that I was talking about. You will notice later that I do come in kind of as an afterthought with the white embossed paper, because I completely forgot about it as it wasn't with my scraps. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to music, because my throat hurts, and let you just watch the process, and hopefully it will make sense to you as you continue to watch. These didn't exactly turn out how I had hoped in the vision that I had after watching Sheila's series on the Sweet Pea Mini Journal, but I still love the way that it turned out, because I love the mixed media effect. I like the different elements that are going into the background. I think, as usual, I often will use too much, and I think that was definitely the case here, but a lot of it gets covered over by my focal image, which is each of the Victorian ladies, which you'll be able to see as this unfolds. So again, just bits and pieces from my scrap pile. This was some paper that I had done some water I was using for, it's gessoed with clear gesso, and then some watercolor, that little pink shaded paper that you see there. So I'll let you watch again. And while you're watching, I'll just tell you a little bit about how I did the index cards. So per Sheila's tutorial and her series, what I did is I took various shades of pink paint, just craft acrylic paint, and gesso, and I covered both the front and the back with, again, varying shades of pink. And I did that up at the lake, and then just brought them back home with me. I didn't get a whole lot done up there. As I mentioned in the intro, the weather was pretty extreme. We did get out and do some fishing. Thankfully, my son has a boat with a full canopy that really saved me. But it was a rough trip. It was really good to be with my kids and my grandkids, but the weather was extreme. The bed that we were sleeping in, which we have the same cabin every year, the bed was just like sleeping on a piece of plywood, so it was really hard on my body, and all those things play into kind of my immune system breaking down. The cold weather, the difficulty sleeping in a strange place, the hard mattress, various other things, the smoke around the campfire. We did have a campfire on the last night, and I think that's what pushed me over the edge, because my body doesn't respond very well to smoke, campfire smoke. So anyway, this is some napkin just from my stash. It's a Paris napkin with the Eiffel Tower and some beautiful roses, so I'm using that. Each on each of the 3 cards, I'm using the same napkin, just different bits of it. I'm using my fluid matte medium to go ahead and adhere that. I find that that works the best for adhering tissue paper and such. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the music on and let you watch a bit more. Now I'm going to come in and do some embossing on each of the 3 cards. Now this did not turn out as expected. I don't do a lot of embossing with embossing powder and such, and so apparently when I had transferred my white powder, or transferred my powder into bigger containers, I marked that the container was white powder and it was not, it was clear, and so the stamping here does not really do what I had hoped. But I'm hoping that when I do the tiny journal, I'll have better success. But so that's the step here, is I'm going to go ahead and stamp with my Versamark ink. I also think my ink is bad. I used it before in another video and I had similar difficulty. So I think I just need to replace my pad too and start over. But I'm going to go ahead and let you watch despite this. So the idea is just to get some white embossing effect on the surfaces, but you can see there that it says white, but it is not white. It is actually clear powder, and so again, it did not really show up, but you know, it happens. So I'm definitely going to need to trade out that powder, change the label on my container so that I don't bump into that again. I'm just pulling various stamps from my collection here. I really liked the stamps that Sheila had used in her projects. A lot of them were from Lorna Taylor. I may be reaching out to Lorna and seeing how I can get my hands on the stamps that Sheila has, because they are all Paris themed, which is just a love for me, and that would have really been nice in this project, but I didn't have a lot to choose from in terms of stamps that would really be effective in this project, or as effective as I had wanted or hoped they would be. So, but I'm going to go ahead and proceed and let you watch and turn the music back on. Go ahead and use my heat tool to go ahead and get the embossing going on here. And again, did not have the effect that I'd hoped for. The white powder with this embossing has a really dynamic effect. And again, I'm going to link Sheila's channel and her playlist. Maybe it's a playlist, I'm not sure. I'll see what I can do to link all the videos in the series. But it was really striking to have the white embossing on her in her journal. So that was what I was attempting here, but again, it did not work out as I planned. Going to move on to the next step, which is to use some gesso. I call this scraping, and it creates a really cool dimensional effect on any project. Part of my love of mixed media is the use of gesso, because it, as you can see here, it's creating kind of a skipped texture on the surface. I'm picking up the card just to see if I can get a little bit of a different effect here and there, but it just it creates a three-dimensional texture as well as really a visual texture that makes everything look really kind of old and vintagey. One thing I did different with this project than I normally would is I did not ink anything, other than at the very end I do ink the cards as a whole, but I did not, as you can tell, I did not ink around the edges of my scraps or anything. I wanted them to really become one with the background, which I believe was a success. So I'll just let you continue watching. We'll be drying after I apply the gesso before we do the next step. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the next step. I decided to come in and use some of the stamps and use a little bit of black archival ink from Ranger, just to create a little bit of contrast in the background for this project, because there's a lot of white and off-white and such in the design, and so the black really acts as a complement to the rest of the cards. So that's what I'm doing here. Just a little bit, not too much. These are just some little number stamps, really small, circular numbers, which I thought was a great element. You can't really see it on everything. On some of the cards, I noticed that it's very visible. In others, it kind of got lost. But that is, again, the nature of mixed media, which I would definitely call this more of a mixed media project versus paper crafting. But it's got all those beautiful elements that I love so much. So now we're going to come in with some gold foil. And I've never done this before. I mean, I think I attempted it one time in a mixed media project, and I didn't really know what I was doing, and so I wasn't super thrilled with the results. But I'm going to go ahead and give it a try here. My first mistake in this process was putting the glue on all the cards at the beginning, because by the time I got to each of the cards, the glue was already starting to dry. So you'll see that I do go back and add more, but I would suggest that you just do one at a time and just put the glue on as you move through each of the pieces. So just it's really messy because obviously I have glue on my finger and I'm touching that gold foil and getting it stuck to my finger and stuck everywhere. So it's pretty fun though. I really love the effect. I will probably be doing this more in my junk journals in the future. I think gold adds a lot of interest to a journal, and it's just really beautiful. It's a great element, so I will probably be doing that more. I have the sheets, or they're kind of like a 6x6 square of gold foil. I put them in a safe place in the studio, which I cannot find right now, but they're not my favorite because you have to kind of touch the whole thing because it's a 6x6 square. So when I ordered it in this little canister, and then it's already kind of shredded up, and so I felt like there was not nearly as much waste or negative effect on a bigger scale. So I'm really pleased with this. I'll be sure to link that in the video, or not the video description, in the supply list over on my blog, and a link to the blog can be found in the description box below. So I'm just going to finish that up here really quick for you. And I did buy the little brush because, again, I thought, well, why not? Let's try to have success right out of the gate here with this this gold foil. But I'll let you go ahead and watch and listen to some music. And here I'm just using that brush to kind of rub off or brush off the excess gold foil that is not being held by the glue. Mine actually held really well. It looked like Sheila's, she put a lot of gold foil down, but it seemed like a lot of it didn't stick. I didn't feel like I lost much in my process. I'm not sure what glue she was using. I know she was using a white glue, but I don't remember off the top of my head. But I felt like this worked really, really well. So yeah, there's a close-up. So now we're going to go ahead and adhere the back on each of the cards to create the pocket, or this, not the pocket, rather the side tuck. I did not create the additional bits that are going to go with these journal cards and side tucks. I will do that probably at a later date when I get closer to putting the journal together. I just seem to have had one thing after another happen, and I have not done anything more with the journal. And so I am looking forward to summer break and being able to finish up some of these projects that I really want to get done, but I have not had the time for various reasons to really focus on it very heavily. So I'm going to go ahead and put a thumb notch here. I should have done that before I glued that on the back, but it is quite all right. I do fix that here in the next two cards. So I'm going to let you go ahead and watch, and again, just adhering a white index card to create the side tuck for the journal cards. When these are put into the journal, they will be glued like a pocket. It's a journal card with a pocket, so it'll be a pocket, a top loading pocket, and then the side tuck on the right or left side, depending on which card we're looking at. This one in particular is going to be a tuck off of the right side, and then I believe two of them are on. One of them's on the left and two of them are on the right, so kind of mix it up a little bit. As I mentioned, I did ink these at the very end. I almost wish that I hadn't, because I liked that really clean, crisp color that I was getting there with the index card peeking through that thumb notch. I thought was really quite beautiful. But again, I usually ink everything, so the fact that I didn't ink up until that point is pretty miraculous in my opinion. It didn't spoil it or anything, but it would have been interesting to see what it would have been like to not ink anything. Maybe try that on the next round. So now I'm going to start assembling my ephemera bits on the top. So again, each of the cards has a vintage girl, and I've got various pieces of lace and such that will go on the bottom of each of the cards. I really love that look in a journal, especially this journal that's going to be very much a Victorian themed journal, that the femininity of the lace and the various kinds of lace peeking out of the bottom of the journal is really cool. So here is where I had realized that I forgot to pull any of the pieces of that embossed paper that I had prepared for this project. So I'm going back and doing that now. It was not a big deal that I didn't do it, other than it would have maybe been nice to get a little bit of the gold foil on top of some of that white, but it turned out all right in the end, and I'm really pleased with it. So I am going to go ahead and start gluing things on, and I'm going to go ahead and turn the music on and let you watch. She is one of my favorite images from, I believe they're from Calico Collage. But again, I will be sure to link all the pertinent supplies over on my blog on the supply list. But she's just quite beautiful. Just getting out my sewing scissors to go ahead and trim off that lace a little bit. I thought she looked a little bit boho in a way, like she's very vintagey, but she also reminded me of kind of a more of a boho type of an image. So these little bits that you see here, this oval, is from chapter 1 papers, and as I've mentioned before, in every video for this journal, I am listing all of the kits that I used. So this is just one from chapter 1 papers, so I will be sure to link it again over on the supply list. I guess I did ink my word up. I forgot about that. I usually don't do this kind of an embellishing, like to have that oval and then just simply cover it or put a word in the center. So that was a little bit different for me. You know, we all kind of have our styles and the things that we tend to go for, but I love how they turned out, and I'm super happy with it. It's just showing you there that I do have my side pocket there, or side tuck. I guess it's a pocket, not a tuck, but you know, doesn't really matter what you call it. And then I love this image, and the shades of pink on this card were specific to this image. So a little bit more of a darker pink, kind of a magenta almost, and I thought it was really lovely. So again, inserting a little bit of that embossed paper. I went to Hobby Lobby, I don't know, a couple weeks ago when they were having a sale on all of their dies, and I was able to get some of the 3D, the three-dimensional embossing folders, excuse me, and one of them was just this leaf pattern that I just thought was really gorgeous. I purchased this lace with this journal in mind, but I've really struggled with using it because it just feels really bold. And but I thought on the bottom of a journal card is absolutely perfect. And then I have an additional piece that will hang to the left of her, just kind of as an independent piece of embellishment. I kind of wanted it on top of that white, but because of the direction that she's facing, it didn't really seem to fit to move it onto the right side. So I did opt to put it on the left. I can't remember if I finished my thought about the tags and things that will go in these pieces. So I will create ephemera to go inside the tuck spot, as well as what will tuck in the top of this kind of pocket journal card type of thing. I guess I should be calling it a pocket rather than a journal card, because it is actually going to be glued down on 3 sides. So looking for small words, they're kind of hard to find, and I realized after I finished all 3 cards and took my photos and had turned the camera off that I actually put hope on 2 of them. But I figure, you know, you can't have too much hope, so I'm okay with that. Really beautiful. Just again making sure that I've got my little pocket there. And here is our last card, I believe. I wasn't really happy, or I was struggling with the lace that I had picked out for this card because it just was really low profile. I do end up using it, and I did pull out a different piece for a second layer, but you'll be able to see that here in a moment. That pink, it's a really pale pink lace there that I'm using, and I'm gluing it on the back because I don't want it to hang down too low, and I didn't want it to cover up the mixed media beauty on the front of the card, so that's why I'm putting it on the back. Just going to trim that off again. It's always a dangerous thing to have my sewing scissors out on my desk. I usually don't even pull them out for cutting that kind of stuff, because inevitably I will cut paper with them, and they're pretty nice scissors that are so far so good on respecting their need to just only cut fabric and textile stuff. And then this is the secondary lace that I picked for the top layer there. Really subtle. Again, the lace below is very, very, very pale pink, and then this is kind of an ivory. And I really I don't really tend to mix ivory and white very much or very well. I feel like I have to choose one or the other, but I really like how the white, especially in the embossed paper, really added a lot of interest to the index cards, even though the laces and things were cream colored and off-white. So I thought it turned out really good. And just another piece of that embossed paper that I mentioned. It is kind of a bummer with, you know, just like every mixed media project that I do, that I do lose some of the background by applying layers. So I was trying to be super careful here to not lose too much of the background, but I did lose a little bit of it, but it worked out okay in the end. Just going to adhere this and then find another small word. I think this is another one that I put hope on, which is okay. And I'm going to get to actually assembling the journal because I have a lot of ephemera. I still need to create a lot of journal cards and tags and things like that, but I have a lot of base pieces in terms of pockets and things to be inserted into the journal. So I need to start looking at assembling the journal so that I can evaluate how much more ephemera that I need. So, and just going to trim this one down. It was pretty big. So anyway, as we finish up, I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I hope it wasn't too distracting to have the voiceover with my scratchy voice and my stuffy nose. It was really nice to be back in the studio creating. I'm definitely going to need a nap. It's exhausting just sitting. I pretty much have been just sleeping. Like, I'm awake for an hour and I sleep for 3 hours. So it was really nice to kind of be able to do something a little more human today. So anyway, thank you guys so much for coming by. I hope that you're inspired to try it. To try the mixed media paper is just so much fun. So I hope that you guys are all well and taking care of yourselves, and I hope to see you around a little bit more in the coming weeks as I get well and as I launch into summer vacation, which will allow me a lot more time to be with you all and hopefully come up with some more creative content for you. Life has just been pretty crazy. So anyway, thank you guys so much. Take care. Bye-bye.